And you'll be signing the agreement.
I think that sentence in there is fine.
That's simple.
On a regular basis.
But what I was looking at is number 4. It says a statement signed by the landowners acknowledging that the stormwater BMPs are fixtures that cannot be altered or removed without approval by the municipality shall be placed on the plan. Now, the letter that I had, in response to that comment that I made back in June of last year, it says, a statement has been included within the signature block on the recorded plan as requested. I asked you to come up and show me where that is. I didn't see it.
I'll make sure that it's on.
I didn't see it.
On the final plan.
I'm thinking that he was talking about that statement that I read that is on the post-construction stormwater management plan, where it says stormwater BMP's responsibility. And it basically says that you're responsible for the operation and maintenance of the BMP manuals. That's a little bit different than the wording in the ordinance. I don't know if this was a requirement of the conservation district for getting your NPDS permit.
I'll add that statement on the record plan.
I don't care if you could put it on the, I don't care what plan you put it on.
Yeah, I'd rather have it in a record plan.
Well,
so
this plan is gonna get recorded too.
Okay.
The post-construction stormwater management plan is gonna get recorded along with that O&M agreement.
I could put it on, I mean, the record plan, a lot of people go to the record plan, and that's what they're looking for.
Well,
So if you want it on there and on there, I can put it on both places.
I don't care where it's on. Both sets of plans will be recorded. That statement.
Put it on both places, we're covered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can sign both. You
Yeah.
can sign. That's fine.
Okay.
And that covers the stormwater.
So you're gonna prepare that agreement, submit it to us at some point?
At some point, we're gonna make any changes on the plans that have to be made, anything that has to go in as an agreement, send it back so that you can review it and Bruce can review it and the township can review it.
Okay.
Under the land development, the comments that I have are HOP permit. The township has an ordinance that requires a driveway permits also. It's just another way to get some.
Oh, do we have to apply for a permit for that?
It's very simple. All you need to do is show us that you have your HOP permit, and then they'll issue a permit.
Okay.
Okay? But if you read the ordinance, that ordinance, that driveway ordinance, it does say that there's a township document that also goes with those permits. The next thing was the wetlands and certification statements have been placed. The wetlands delineation shown on the final plan is different than the preliminary plan. I think last month, David indicated that they had the Army Corps of Engineers out on the site and the delineation changed as a result of their presence. My only question is, did they do a jurisdictional determination? And my only question is, and I leave it to the Planning Commission to decide if the wetland statement, which is basically a statement that says the township takes no responsibility for the presence or absence of wetlands on that site, is sufficient to meet the requirements of the SALDO. I think it is. I leave it to the PC, to the Planning Commission to decide. You have that statement, basically says, hey, if you go in there and someone comes back and questions whether you're fooling around with wetlands or possibly wetlands, and the Army Corps comes out and takes a look and says, oh, you are in wetlands, it doesn't come back to the township as a result of approving your plan.
That's fine, because
But,
the
like
only
I
thing that I
say,
know about that from Steve Hawk, who's one of our environmental guys, scientists, they did change their minds on where the wetlands were to our benefit.
when you
if
say
you-
they, was it the Army Corps or
No,
was it
this
Steve?
DEP,
DEP came out and looked at it.
right.
Okay.
Now, if you want, we can ask DEP to see if they can give us a letter saying that they're satisfied with it.
Like I say, I don't know if it's, no, that's what had me confused.
At the last meeting, David said it was the Army Corps came out and delineated it.
and the delineation changed.
Yeah,
It says wetlands. Lear said that they had the Army Corps of Engineers out and the delineation changed. They will provide a report for same. Well, we got a report. We got this, they submitted this report that basically shows the change in the wetlands
Yeah,
from what was done last year, and the only thing is, you know, what was said at that meeting, really, there's no indication in the report that said that EEP or Army Corps was there, and I say, I don't know if that's an issue.
we'll give you a letter, you know, selling one way or the other, that it was Corps of Engineers, and if it wasn't the Corps of Engineers, whether DEP says, we're okay with this for the Corps of Engineers, so the township is off the hook.
Well, my question is, by having that note on the land development plan,
And what does the note say? Something about
Note
absolving
says-
us of responsibility?
right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, it's in the
It's our
ordinance.
As long as
responsibility.
it's the note from the ordinance, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's one of the statements.
so, that's a non-issue then,
Yeah, okay.
okay? Um,
Put that away.
I got it right here.
The next one is just a statement basically saying the revised stormwater management plans and analysis have been submitted and are acceptable, subject to the waivers that were granted by the Board of Supervisors and conditions outlined in my other letter of April 14th relating to the feasibility study. And that basically is the O&M agreement and those three things that go with the O&M. The lowering and emptying the pond by pumping, and the, your aeration system, whatever.
Okay.
And then the statement. Next comment, floodplain is shown on the plan. The delineation shown on the plan is different than the delineation on the current firm maps. Based on the firm mapping, a LOMA and/or elevation certificate may be required to officially establish that delineation. The PC should determine whether the delineation shown on the plan is adequate to meet the requirements of the SALDO. I think it is. The only thing that I've seen is if you end up going out and getting a mortgage or a loan, the bank will look at the FEMA, the firm map, and wherever that line is, if the line hits the buildings and stuff or whatever, then they're going to want an elevation certificate or a LOMA approved by FEMA to basically get you out of it. Otherwise, you're going to be paying for flood insurance. Okay, so they've shown the floodplain based upon their evaluation of where it is. It's different than what's shown on the FEMA map. My
And
question.
they're signing it as the engineer certifying that it is correct, so.
And it may well be, but in the eyes of a lending institution, they're going to see this plan, but they're not going to have a letter from FEMA saying, yeah,
If we need to establish a LOMA, we'll.
I say, I don't know if it impacts you, it may impact them in the future.
I think he's pointing out to us, be careful that you don't have to pay insurance on that too. For flood insurance.
Yeah, if you don't have any mortgages or any banks involved, you don't need those types of things. Because they're certifying to the fact that it's not in the floodplain.
Right, they're certifying,
Yeah.
yeah.
The one section in the final plan requirements is, basically says all information provided on the preliminary plan. The only thing that I saw missing, some of the things were your probes, your soil probes, were shown on the preliminary plan, where you took probes to determine whether you could infiltrate or not and what were wetlands and stuff. Those things should be included on your sheet 2 and 3, which is your existing features.
Okay.
Next things are just signatures. The next two are just signatures. And number 8 is a disclaimer statements. In the back of the subdivision land development ordinance, there are a couple disclaimers. basically saying the township doesn't guarantee that any on-lot sewage permit can be obtained for the property. You may already have your permit, I don't know, but that's a disclaimer. The other one is the township does not guarantee that any well water that may be needed to support the development of the land is available in either adequate quantity or quality. And
Is that in section 502B10? Under number
It's
8?
in the back on all the
it's in,
certifications.
that's where it talks about certifications, but the certifications that are printed in the ordinance,
Oh, okay,
in the back of the ordinance.
they're part of an
Yeah,
appendix?
the disclaimer.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
see a
not
page
labeled, there's no
number.
page
It's a
number,
revised one, and it's in the saldo that you have.
it's in the
Okay.
It's the
saldo.
original saldo adopted,
Yeah.
and then we clarified the checklist and that, so, but it's basically the same.
It's right after the application forms that are in the book, and the approval and review drawing blocks. Then there's a page with like 3 disclaimers.
Okay.
And then the final thing is, the developer's agreement.
No, I have not started working on it.
Okay. And it would be, yeah.
Is there, is there an estimate of what the improvements are going to cost?
There was a partial estimate, I think. There was a partial estimate that I think dealt with some pipe.
Drainage.
Yeah,
All the drainage items.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just
really,
pipe-
as
it was
far as the
pipe,
agreement,
outlet
I
structures.
need to know what items that are considered public improvements that we're putting in there.
Well, improvements required by the ordinance would be like ENS, the actual building of your reflecting pond, your parking lot paving.
Anything that has to do with drainage or like you said, the erosion control, the post-construction management.
Your infiltration
I didn't
berm.
think lighting was needed, because lighting isn't required in the ordinance, even though we're putting lighting in. And I didn't think any of their private, they're gonna do more landscaping, because there's no landscaping.
Well, no landscaping, we're not,
What
what I
was
had
it?
picked was, what I had indicated was ENS, parking lot paving, including the core pavers, your signs, like your handicap signs, your directional signs and things like that. The basin construction, the infiltration berm construction, wetlands mitigation if it's needed, your retaining walls that are going to be used to
Right.
support the parking lot. The dumpster screening, that's something that's required, like the screening around your dumpster, that was something that was required by the ordinance. The stormwater conveyance and piping structures, I got a portion of that, I didn't get, I got a total, I didn't see any unit prices. Lighting, and then parking lot paint striping, basically your handicap symbols and your striping out in your van parking. You're certainly not gonna put striping on the dirt parking lots right now, but in the handicapped areas, they have to be
Right.
Mm-hmm.
properly striped, so things like that would be,
A couple of months ago, we sent out what we thought was gonna be a good final plan to contractors. They gave us estimates on drainage, some of the estimates were lump sum. I'm gonna have to go back to them and break that down, so, we
Yeah.
have itemized, and we have cost figures so that he can review the cost figures.
yeah, someplace in
What
this,
percentage do you want on, whenever we do finally get done, what do you want for, let's say, you're expecting that?
we'll be inspecting those things, like your,
What do you mean by what percentage?
There's usually a percentage that the municipality wants on top of whatever your estimate is, so that.
Well, it's usually 110%. I mean, if you're talking MPC requirements.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Some
just
require
wasn't,
15% now.
no.
I don't think, no.
No, the
That's for
FPC is
maintenance.
110.
Yeah, maintenance can be 15%. Once it's done, you have, I think, the 15% for maintenance for up to, I'm not sure if it's 18
Yeah,
or
but we're
24
not going to,
months.
would we even, we wouldn't even
No.
require the maintenance
No, no,
agreement
no, but
because
we
they're not
just-
gonna be dedicated.
I'm just searching for where he's coming up with
Yeah.
the 15%. I'm guessing that's, I know that's in the MPC for maintenance, but it's 110% for.
We've
the
used
improvement.
something from zero to like $4,000.
What I'm saying is, if we had all the numbers up that we finally agree on for the cost per unit, and we have a number down there that's total, what, is there additives onto that?
10%.
That would go into, like, they're probably gonna wind up getting a letter of credit. So what would total that letter of credit?
If it's $200,000,
It's 220.
it's 220,000.
Yeah.
10%.
10%,
10%.
Okay. Because last month you had mentioned about 40%.
What?
Last meeting,
No,
didn't you say 40?
no.
No, our comment was that, as opposed to the 110%, our concern was that we're not stuck finishing your project. And
Right,
that's when,
David
David
had made a
reminded
comment
us
it could only
of the
be a-
110, which, yes, we know that's there, it's just, we don't wanna be finishing a private project.
oh, right, but I
Yeah,
thought
that-
Bruce had
that
mentioned
was
it
our
was,
concern.
that it would be, he wanted 40%. And that's why
I
David made the
would,
comment.
the one thing I said, it may be more for the paving, because your paving is deferred
Right.
for what,
2
24 or 28 months?
28 months.
28 months?
Yeah. but-
So the only paving that you're gonna be doing right now is you have to pave your handicap spaces.
I thought maybe, I wasn't here, Bruce, but I saw the minutes, was there some mention about instead of doing this, there'd be no permits issued?
Can
Well,
we do
no,
It's
well,
dangerous.
I don't know. I
I
don't know.
don't like doing it, but it can
Well.
be done. I've done it somewhere else. There's also, you can put a
Well, we
mortgage
do
on
have
the,
that
first
res-
mortgage on the property, and I don't want to own the property.
No.
We did have that, we do have that resolution, though, that no CO is issued until all the permits are obtained,
Mhm.
so you have that.
Well, all the, not all the permits are obtained, but all the improvements are made.
Yeah.
In other words, you get a
Eh,
permit, you get a
well-
permit for your septic system.
It has to be done.
Right.
Right, that was,
The
that's in the
building, the
resolution.
basic code official, the
Yeah.
building code official will not give you an occupancy permit until the sewage enforcement officer does a final inspection and signs off on your septic permit. What was happening in the past is people were coming in and the septic system wasn't inspected, and it was in, but it wasn't inspected and signed off by the SEO, and they want to move into the house. Well, now you have to have your driveway permit signed off by the roadmaster, your septic permit signed off by the SEO, and all your things that are required in that particular case for a house, before you get your certificate of occupancy and can move in.
Well, our concern was this, with the inn, or the lodge, if you want to call it, is near completion. Now, we did have permission from Scott Bieber to run it off the system that was there to open. You know, and our concern was
Do
this,
you
that
have
you
a
were
copy
saying.
of that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you give us a copy?
Mhm.
yeah. You know, I mean, that was our concern, that we could at least get the main building open and operating until we gain the approval for this and they begin the construction.
That was that was gonna be one of my questions, because you said about that at the last meeting, when we said all improvements done, and you like, well, we wanna get the house, the inn going, as opposed to the banquet
Mhm.
right away, that we came to it at the same time, or all at once. It doesn't say anywhere that it's going to be a phase project, so how do we handle that? I mean, it may be,
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, zoning gave us the approval to open,
The inn.
they gave you
Right,
the,
yes.
yes.
Yeah,
Well-
they did.
Yeah.
Then still have to go through the saldo, but yeah, they did.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So you're opening which part first?
The main inn.
The main end, but not the banquet facility.
Bank facility would, well, it needs repairs, obviously, but it would not be opened until the parking lot. would be
Parking lot,
in,
the access point, that stuff,
Exactly.
drainage.
Somehow address it in the developer's agreement.
Do you need that western parking lot installed for your inn to open?
That wasn't in the original agreement, no.
Well, I'm asking
No.
you.
No, I mean, it's
No,
only
it's
4
only
rooms.
4 rooms,
It's 4 rooms,
so,
Okay.
you know, what I mean,
which
there's,
is actually 1 less room than it was as a house, which was a 5-bedroom house. So there'll actually technically be less cars there than it was out of the house.
I'm gonna say at a minimum, you're gonna need that parking area alongside of the innkeepers. unit
The problem with that
paved,
is,
because that's where your handicap space is
Correct.
for access to the inn.
Correct, but part of the problem with that is the way the plans are drawn is that all the septic piping that is going into the drain field and that is coming through that area where that parking space is.
currently there is macadam there,
Only one
and
spot too, isn't it?
Well, there's two spaces there, one's a handicap space.
Two, I see.
There's two spaces there, one's a handicap space, and I'm assuming that's where the handicap parking would be for the inn, that spot.
long-term, yes.
Well, once we start construction, a lot of this will go quick. I mean, this isn't a big construction job. It's more so the building inside than us building a parking lot and whatever goes through there. Is there a way we can write that up in the agreement that you have so many days to use that on, you know, and then it has to be closed down so that it can be, everything can be done as per plan? So they can stay open with that, the inn? What do you want us to do, I guess?
I guess my question is, what portion, to open the inn, what portion of these quote improvements need to be completed? The ENS controls, the signs, the parking, what part, I guess I'd need to know what part of that needs to be done before they can open the inn. You know, what public improvements, I'm saying quote public improvements, apply to the inn itself?
Well, the only thing that was being required from L&I was to have the signage for the entrance to the rear of the building as the main building because of the ADA requirements. So that signage was required for opening for the inn, as far as L&I went. We weren't given any other guidance as to what was required for the inn to open. We were just told by zoning some time ago that the inn, we could get the inn open and up and running until the rest of the land development came through. Now, we're not open yet.
Can we provide you a plan of how we want to do that, that you can be part of everything that we send you back? To show you what we're gonna build, when we're gonna build it, and a construction sequence so that you're okay with them opening? And then they open once we get that?
Unfortunately, I can't speak for I can't speak for the building inspector, Mr. Faust. But I know of other issues in the township right now where there have been businesses that have been open, and L&I came in and did an audit, and they said, oh, you're open, but where's your handicap parking space?
And they're coming back in September.
And they're coming back in September to re-inspect, and then the old proverbial poop will hit the fan.
Well,
Well, we do
So-
have, there is